Here's what I know is true. Most weight loss plans are one size fits all. So frustrating. They don't take into account each person's individual needs, which could mean dietary restrictions, medical issues, or other personal needs. That's why you're going to love Noom. It's built for your psychology and your biology, meeting you where you are. Noom's personalized programs feel more sustainable than any other, more restrictive weight loss programs. And also, it doesn't shame you when you choose to treat yourself, and that's important. I like this company because it's got a psychology and biology-based approach and a super easy app to use with lots of great features, including daily lessons, coaching, and flexibility. I think it's your time to start. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. Based on 3.5-year study of actively engaged Noom users with minimum BMI of 25. Individual results may vary. Visit Noom.com for more information.
Behind every BP fill-up, thousands of people across America go to work every day. People producing energy offshore. People turning it into products at our refineries. People doing R&D to make products that are better for your engine. People trading and shipping fuels to their destinations. And the people who help you at one of BP's growing family of retail stations. They're part of the more than 300,000 jobs BP supports across the country. Learn more at bp.com/investing in America.
Welcome back for another episode of Reality Life with Kate Casey, and I hope that you've been having a great week. And I got to tell you, I got a great episode for you today, especially if you love all Bravo shows, all reality shows, because with me in this episode is New York Times bestselling author and the director of the fictitious Real Housewives Institute is Brian Moylan. And we have a lot to talk about, which includes this week's episode and recent episodes, really, of Southern Charm, the season premiere of Summer House, and the last two episodes of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Nothing makes us happier than when we get to meet a cast member's full family. Sure, we get to meet the spouse and sometimes the kids and sometimes their friends. But when we get to meet their parents, cherry on top of the sundae, perfection, chef's kiss, because it really allows us to understand a cast member much better. And I feel like without having the benefit of being able to film with an ex-husband, there's a layer of Sutton that's been kind of missing for us. Like, what is the backstory? Why does she look at life the way that she does? Why does she behave in certain situations the way that she does? It all kind of makes sense because we get to meet her mother, Reba, on a cast trip. Sutton takes Kyle and Garcelle with her to Augusta, Georgia. Now, first of all, I love that right away because the show is filmed in Beverly Hills. So getting out of there allows us to see each cast member in a new and different way. But when you get to go to someone's hometown and you get to see where the story really began, it just provides so much more context. In Sutton's case, she's got a mother who is successful in her own right. She's a therapist. She's in her early 80s, was married to Sutton's father, who had a history of mental health issues, and she's been kind enough to share with us that he took his own life. She's also shared that her mother was in the house the day that he took his own life. So already we know this is a family that has been through enormous pain and are still really deep in grief. We also learn through conversation that Kyle has with her mother, Reba, that she was born, into the post-World War II era, like many of our parents and grandparents. And that presents other communication difficulties because that's an era in which people were sort of just trying to keep their heads above water. And in some cases, many cases, depending on the culture and also life circumstances, parents were not always so loving. They didn't coddle in the way that I think a lot of them perceive parents right now doing so. So when Sutton talks about a lack of connection with her mother, and you certainly see it in scenes, having her mother explain to Kyle the family that she was born into, it only makes sense that there is clear disconnection and that sometimes Sutton mourns for a deeper relationship with her mother. But it made me think about many of us, and when you don't grow up in a house where there's like a lot of kissing and hugging and affirmations and recognition, it does present an issue when you parent. Like, I come from a family where there wasn't like a lot of loving and hugging and recognition and that. And that was because my mother was not born into a family like that. So much like anything else, it's hard to sort of break the chain, to be the parent that looks at things in a new and different way and goes in an opposite direction. So it makes sense how they have like lacked a real conversation in the past about how she wants her mother to acknowledge that she's been through this very difficult divorce. She's raised 3 phenomenal children who seem to be very successful. And she just wants her mom to acknowledge it. And her mom struggles to understand why she needs it so much, because for her own mother, that's not something that she ever received from her parents. So I know it sounds simple, but it is complex because we all are always trying to figure out our own parents. We're trying to figure out how to be better parent to our children. And I think shows like this really present an opportunity to have a really important conversation in our own families, with our own friends, with our spouses and our children. And that is why I love shows like this. And I'm so grateful that Sutton and her mother allowed us to explore their relationship, and thus our own relationships through the show. I got to tell you, it needs an award. This episode stood out for me in terms of reality TV. I thought it was so well done. So make sure you watch that. And then, of course, a whole new season of Summer House. We've got this relationship that's sort of unraveling between Paige and Craig. And you look at it through different vantage points, through Paige's view while filming on Summer House and Craig's on Southern Charm. And I'm really looking forward to the season of Summer House play out so that we can really understand Paige's point of view a little bit better. So if you're not watching these shows, you better watch them. It's so much fun to watch, especially after a heavy week. You can kind of explore other people's lives and just kind of enjoy looking at the different ways that people handle life experiences and their complicated relationships. So again, get excited because Brian's with me and I love these episodes. We have such a good time together. Here's my interview with Brian. Brian, I feel like there are so many Bravo developments. So,
oh my gosh, so many.
So many. First thing is Madison's pregnant.
Yeah, Madison's pregnant. Yeah, good for her.
I know.
How's his health?
Well, I guess it's okay because I haven't really seen anything since. But it seemed like there was a good prognosis. So, but remember last season, which we're watching right now, or I guess this season, which was filmed last year, she had her father who died and then her husband who was diagnosed. So I'm glad that things look good for her. So that's great.
I love Madison. I think she's an excellent practitioner of the reality television arts and sciences.
Yes.
I wish we could give her a platform where she would do more.
Yeah.
Or she could do more. Like, I feel like post her breakup with Austin, she's always been a little bit wasted on Southern Charm.
But what do they do? I mean, it's a small town. There's not much going on there. What do they do?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, give her something. Move her to
put her on
Beverly
a rowing
Hills.
team? Like, I don't know. Go try to talk to moms at the drop-off and they're like wanting to get a spot on the show. And she's like, beat it, losers. Like, what do you film?
Yeah. It's so weird, though. The show has gotten so strange to me in that, I mean, the only storylines I care about are Craig, Austin, Shep, Whitney, and, Madison's kind of around those guys too. And then you have the Sallys and the Vanitas and the Levas and the JTs, and they all seem so superfluous. Yeah. Like, I don't care about any of you. It's kind of like when Melrose Place is on his last season, there's a bunch of like newbies and you're like, who the fuck even is this? Yeah, that's what it feels like a little. So, sorry, Madison.
I feel like Madison is their Cameron 2.0. Like she's utilized to like keep it real because she's got this nice life and a hot husband and her business is going on. And she's like, hey, losers, what are you doing?
Yes. No, I absolutely agree. And I think she's found like a good place in that. But yeah, I just wish we could she would be in a situation where we could feel more of that venom. Because when she gets mad, there's no one better. Yeah.
I did love the dinner with Patricia, even though Patricia clearly is in support of men that behave badly, which can get annoying.
There is a thing about Bravo women enabling the terrible men. Look at Lisa Vanderpump and DJ James Kennedy.
Without question. Very, very upsetting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all, she always supported all the men on that show, no matter what they did. And same thing with Miss Patricia. Whatever those guys do, she kind of supports them. But Patricia at least is like, you boys will never learn. You'll never grow up. When are you going to get married? She's a little bit more critical than Lisa, who was like, oh, James didn't even hurt the poor girl. And
he wouldn't hurt a fly. Yeah, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The police were called. So
wake up. Yep. I want to know what you think about the dynamics between Craig and Austin and their friendship.
I am very fascinated by it because usually the way male friendships work, and we've seen this on the shows with like the house husbands and stuff so many times, it's like, oh, dude, I was mad when you did whatever. And he goes, oh, sorry, bro. And he's like, it's all right, dude. And then it's over, Yeah. And so I'm glad we're getting more of a dynamic that we see in female friendships a lot more where, you're not spending enough time with me. The time you spend with me isn't good enough. Work is getting confused,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like Craig is really missing the mark here because, he thinks Austin is like, oh, come drink with me. But Austin just wants to spend time with his friend. That's not work. Yeah. And I feel like Craig maybe needs to not be working as much as he is.
He reminds me sometimes of Vicky Gumbelson, the way that on Real Housewives of Orange County, it was so insecure that she'd have to tell you how much she was working. I have an insurance company. I've got meetings. Craig's getting a little like that.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. But I also think that Craig is the smartest of the bunch because he was like, I'm going to get this other guy to run all the businesses and I'm just going to make the Instagrams and show up at the store and do all the fun stuff.
Kiss the babies, shake hands. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he seems to be doing a lot better than a lot of them at it. So I get that Craig is wanting to be successful. He wants to work. He wants to focus on that. I think that's smart. Like everybody with this platform should be trying to utilize it. The fact that you can't buy Uba Hot or Jenna Lyons eyelashes is insane to me.
Right.
That why would you keep doing the show and these things aren't for sale? But yeah, I do think Craig needs to tone it down a little bit. And I also don't love the implication Paige is getting in the edit, which is Paige is making Craig behave like this.
Right. Well, I think that we all kind of wonder, does Craig totally listen?
Yeah. No, yes, I get what you're saying. And, obviously your partner's going to have some influence on you, whatever, but I don't like this, oh, Paige is Yoko and she's breaking up the band kind of feel, It seems a little bit like Craig.
It's getting under her skin. Yeah, it's nice to watch all this archival footage because you see that it was just not a spur of the moment decision, that this was long in the making. That her patience was waning, that they didn't really have a lot in common, that there was no interest on her part of ever living in the South. At some point, it wasn't going to work. And they were probably much better just as people that dated, but it may have gone on longer. And it may be because Craig's the kind of person who doesn't want to hear the truth.
I think you're correct. And you saw that with his breakup with Naomi. Remember, he kept trying to come back to her. And she was like, no, dude, it's over.
Yeah.
But I also think there was a really interesting thing in the Real World New Orleans reunion show. Did you watch that show?
Not only did I watch it, I interviewed all of them. I text with them.
I mean,
I'm so into this conversation, you have no idea.
So Danny Roberts, who was
the best.
Oh, amazing. A formative crush for me in my younger days.
And can still be your crush. He's super gorgeous to this day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, I would, girl, the DMs are open. Please slide in. But he said something about how he was in this relationship on the Real World with a guy who was in the military. And they had to blur his face because of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Yep.
And so at the reunion, he says, like, this relationship was so public and meant so much to so many people that
that's why
I stayed in it way longer than I should have. And I feel like Craig and Paige probably did the same. Like, people are rooting for us. They're expecting this to work, whatever. And that makes you maybe hang out a little bit more than you should have.
Probably. Also, the added component with Danny was that he became this accidental advocate. So people wanted him to have a relationship because maybe they couldn't do that in their own life. They were still struggling to come out. But yes, that conversation really has stayed with me over the years too. And in talking to him, that it really was a bad relationship. It didn't serve him at all. But when you have people writing you, and this was even before social media, so you can only imagine what Craig and Paige hear, because it's people that are living vicariously through them in some way. And I thought about it the other day. There are grown people, 30s and 40s, that I would see in the comments section. Any post with Craig and Paige, and it'd be like referring to them as mom and dad. So contemporaries, like the fandom, I'm like, oh my God, like let them just be who they are, like relax. So I could imagine the pressure that they must have felt to some degree.
And I loved what Paige said in the last episode of Southern Charm, kind of about how she's the one who has to deal with all these questions about when are you getting married and when are you having a baby at 31 in a way that
which is so
Craig
young.
Never had to. When did you first start having babies?
I had my first baby at 32.
Really?
Yeah.
Well.
And I had a baby at 41. I would every 2 years.
Okay.
I got married at 30, first baby at 32. And I really wanted to have a baby. So you can only imagine if you're 31, peak of your career,
right?
You live in a completely different city, and you are in the entertainment industry, which, let's be honest, it's like, you want to have a baby, you're going to be like persona non grata, like you're not going to get jobs. And I'm sure that, Carl's ex feels like that on, Summer House as well. Like, that pressure that your agents, your managers, all of the people, the network executives are like, well, you're pretty irrelevant once you have a baby. That can really freak somebody out who's really trying to build a career.
Well, and also you're thinking about having a baby. You live in New York. It's super expensive. And you don't know how long you can rely on the Summer House money, the Amazon Live money, whatever. It's not like you have a good salaried position where you're going to have another good salaried position, Truly. So I get all of Paige's reservations and why she didn't want to do it. And it makes sense to me. But I'm sad about it because I like them together, but also you got to do what's right for you. I mean, Craig is going to find a blonde, and in 9 months, they're going to be married. And
I totally agree.
The kid on the way. Yeah.
And I bet you they'll become friends later in life.
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be weird for a little while. I bet you they'll be buddies in time, but I do think he will meet someone quickly. I think Bravo should do some sort of spinoff. Like, let's find Craig a wife, and he would be up for it, and he'll probably find somebody. You know how many people will want to apply to be on a show like that?
I mean, do you think there's a world in which Craig could be the Bachelor?
I think so. Except the only caveat is those contracts are too onerous. They'd say you can't do anything without our permission for 2 years. And he'd be like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I actually think Paige would be funny on Bachelor, because then you could get Hannah Berner and a bunch of her friends to come on the show and just rib people. So that might be funny. But the truth is they're so powerful. They don't really need it, to work with a network that controls them for a good period of time. What did you think about the moments with Shep and the girlfriend who lives in the Bahamas?
I love that Shep is finally getting a taste of his own medicine. And it was so funny. I'm doing this again to the boys, but like when you talk about his text message and what it means and should I send it? And those are conversations I have with my female friends. And, I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying whatever, but like, that's what we talk about. That's what girls talk about. That's what you go through. And then here is Shep being like, should I send this? What should I say? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, you're behaving like every girl that you tortured for so many years. And thank God for that. Maybe this is what will change you into a decent human being.
As you write your life story, you're far from finished. Are you looking to close the book on your job? Maybe turn a page in your career? Be continued at the Georgetown University School of Continuing Studies. Our professional master's degrees and certificates are designed to meet you where you are and take you where you want to go. At Georgetown SCS, the learning never stops, and neither do you. Write your next chapter. Be continued at scs.georgetown.edu/podcast.
DC, are you ready to start 2025 with incredible live entertainment at Capital One Arena? On February 22nd, comedy takes center stage with the hilarious Joe Coy. Then, on March 17th, feel the energy as Disturbed gets down with the sickness. On March 26th, it's all about the legendary Mary J. Blige bringing soul and power to the stage. And don't miss pop sensation Kylie Minogue on April 8th. Tickets are going fast. Secure yours now at CapitalOneArena.com.
It did look like a humbling moment, but then I interviewed him and I asked him if they were really together. You know, I said there are rumors that this girl was basically using you, and he was certain that it was a real relationship. So maybe someone would compartmentalize that way. Like it's like when I interviewed the woman from Dirty John and she still really believed that they had a love affair. It's like some people really want to hang on to the belief that the person that was awful to them really had a deep love for them, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. But it's also so weird how it's almost playing into this strange colonial fantasy Shep has, like, you know, of his ancestors moving to America. Like he's going to move to the Bahamas and meet a native girl and fill her full of babies and live on the beach for the rest of his life. You know,
it does
it's like,
seem like I'm like, where did that come from? Like I never saw him as somebody who would want to live in the Bahamas and read books on the beach and just jet ski. That doesn't seem in sync with him at all. Like he's somebody who wants to travel the world and meet different cultures. So that just shows you how much he's like fixated on this girl. I mean, by the way, we all do that at one point where we start dating someone, we have the hots for them and we're like, yeah, sure, I'll live in a shack in, you know, like in Florida and, you know.
Yes.
Whittle wood. And you're like, wait, what? Why did I even think that was a possibility? Stupid. Yeah, that was
it's so like, she seems attractive and she seems nice, but
does she seem nice? She does not seem nice.
I mean, well, I should say she seems fine based on what we've seen. You know, I don't feel one way or the other. I wonder what it is about this one that got Shep when all the other ones didn't.
She doesn't care because she doesn't care. She's not chasing him.
Yeah. Well, and I also think it's funny how she's like, my grandmother's a huge fan. Like she matched with Shep on Raya and was like, oh, I'll do this so I can tell my grandmother a funny story.
But like everything is so backhanded compliment. Gross.
Yeah. No, you're correct.
You're like,
I can't.
I'm like, Shep, you're openly being trolled. Like, what?
Oh, when he has that FaceTime with her trying to plan everyone's visit, she is so disinterested.
Yeah.
It's wild. And I don't know how you can see all those signs as someone like Shep and be like, oh, she's into it. Like, no, girl, she's clearly not.
I know.
And Austin knows it. And Austin is like, you need to lay off. You need to stop telling you. Like, yeah, I don't want to take relationship advice from Austin.
Then it makes me think about Craig too. Does he have that sort of delusion too? Because he's like, you know, we're talking about babies. And maybe behind closed doors, Paige did say things like, you know, this is what our names of our kids would be. But when you watch the show, it just doesn't seem like she's on the same page. So is he kind of living in that same space?
Yeah, I think he's like picking up breadcrumbs that aren't there. Yeah, because in every serious conversation we've seen them have, it's her saying, I like you, I want to be with you, but I am not in a rush to get married or have children. So unless the message she's giving him off camera are wildly different. Yeah, I think Craig is maybe feeding into that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So that's kind of, for me, this season, like that's what's been the most interesting is to watch these two men who have, you know, had women clawing at them. They're fixated on two women that seem to be disconnected to them.
And I'm curious about Austin's girlfriend and why we haven't seen more of her or more of them together.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Where did she disappear to? Are they still together?
Unclear?
Yeah, because we're so uninvested in this relationship, we didn't even check in to see if they're still together.
But the last episode had one of the most embarrassing things to ever happen on reality television.
What was that?
When Vanita gets rejected by JT.
Oh, I know.
Oh my God. Could you imagine?
Well, I kind of don't believe in this at all. Like, why would she like him?
Agree. And I feel like it was largely show motivated on both of their behalves. But then for him to be like, no, I already have a girlfriend that nobody heard about who definitely
because
doesn't
she
live
lives
in Canada.
in Niagara Falls. Right.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
Come on, dude. It just, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, terrible. I want him to go away forever and never come back.
Well, I think he is going away, so that's probably okay to put on the checklist. We've been there, done that. Well, let's talk about Summer House in this new season. And back in the house, we've got all of the other, the players with some new additions. How are you feeling about Carl and the ex in the house together, and the fact that she reveals finally that she's with child? I kind of feel like at that point, everyone in the world had heard rumors that she was with child.
Yes.
So it seemed a little bit like lackluster. Like, why don't you tell me something I don't know? I don't know. What did you think about that scene?
Well, it's funny because when Lindsay's about to announce to everybody, West is like, well, I heard that you were pregnant. Is that true? Are you drinking? And she's like, wait 2 minutes, dude. But yeah, it seems weird that
they live in the city. The guy she's with lives in the city. They're going out to restaurants in the city. Wouldn't someone have already noticed that she was pregnant?
Yeah. And what's weird is it seems so tooled for reality television / Instagram / the Clear Blue Easy money, which she definitely got.
Sync it all up, right?
Yeah. And so, but also, I mean, it seems like the two of them aren't communicating, but it's like you're about to go on a reality show with your ex-fiance and you're pregnant. You can't give him a heads up. You can't call Kyle and be like, hey, on July 4th, when we start filming, I'm going to tell everyone I'm pregnant. Would you call Carl so he's not blindsided? Like, I don't know. That seemed a little weird to me. But having the two of them together in the house for the summer just seems like a bad idea in general. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious how we're going to see it play out over the course of the season. But yeah, it's hard enough for Carl coming into that situation, and then he's coming in on the heels of her announcing it both to the cast and publicly. Seems, I don't know, dicey at best.
Also, this show has been on the air for so many years. It's inevitable that someone is going to get pregnant or get married or what, the multitude of things that happen to you as you go into your 30s. I mean, I think the first group of people, they're probably around 40 now.
Yeah, because Kyle's 42, so Lindsay's pushing 40. And yeah, so's Carl. Amanda's still young.
So
but does
it really make sense anymore when you bring in these younger, cast members? They want to go like balls out. They want to go to the bars. They want to rage. But the older cast members, like, is that their reality anymore?
No, it doesn't seem like it. And last summer, we at least had Danielle, who was single and wanted to go out and mix it up a little bit with the kids, Mm-hmm. And Kyle still wants to go out. But Amanda, who's as young as the young people, doesn't want to go out either. So yeah, it's at a weird inflection point where I feel like some of the originals need to graduate. Mm-hmm. And I think we do have enough of a group with Sierra, Paige, West, Jesse, all those guys, they're all about the same age. Yeah, because the new girls on the show are like 26.
Yeah,
and Lindsay's
totally
like
different place.
38 and having a baby. Like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Were you a Jersey Shore fan?
Yeah, in the beginning.
So in the later seasons, Snooki gets married and gets pregnant, and she's living in a house. Yeah, she's living in a house next door to the Jersey Shore house, and then mad that nobody wanted to come visit her because she was pregnant. And I feel like that's going to be kind of this thing now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Lindsay can't show up next summer with a baby.
I mean, I can't imagine she'd want to. I mean,
yeah,
no.
That's crazy.
Well, also, Kyle, did he just forget about his company? That's not happening anymore. It's just full-blown DJ now, which probably... I get it. I mean, having a company is high stress 24/7. You have investors, you have numbers you have to hit. Yeah, you could just create a set list and go DJ, but although you're up all night. I mean, I don't know how that's going to work out for them as a couple and beginning a family if he's forgotten about this company and now he's going to be like moonlighting in like Ibiza.
Yeah. I'm hoping that the DJing is kind of like Tom Sandoval's cover band, where it's like a fun little hobby. He can make some extra money. And, you know, Kyle has always seemed like a very smart business person and dedicated to his business. So I am assuming Loverboy's hopefully going to continue and seems to be, of all the Bravo brands, doing the best outside of the show. How
would we know though?
I mean, just because you go to Whole Foods and there's Loverboy. And
is there? Yeah, I never.
Yeah, if you're at least in Los Angeles. And so if you're just buying Loverboy at Whole Foods, you may not know the show.
Maybe. I don't know.
I guess.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
Is Amanda happy? I mean, now she's got, a swimwear line she's working on. So something outside of Loverboy and him. Is this going to work out for them in the long run?
I hope so. I feel like they just need to have the kid. Once they have the kid, I think Kyle's going to fall in line and everything will be fine.
That's like the worst logic.
That's why I don't have kids.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just have a baby and it'll all work out. No. Absolutely not. West and Sierra. I mean, this is still going on. The frustration between the two of them. We're talking like a year and some change now.
Yeah.
Can they just like figure out a way to be friends?
That's what I'm hoping for. I think what is doing them in is the rhythm that this particular show takes, in that they're finishing the season airing right before they start filming the next season. So I think what Sierra's reacting to in the premiere is that West was doing all those interviews about their breakup, etc. But what she's failing to notice is the reason he had to do all those interviews, because everyone was like, we love West. He's the best new star, whatever. And then he totally screwed Sierra over. So they all had to do second articles being like, maybe he wasn't as cool as we thought he was. So like, she's reacting to the fact that he's saying things in the press that he didn't say to her. But I think maybe what she wants to focus on is, everybody thinks I'm right and you're wrong. And, doesn't need to mess with him over that. So
I still worry about West and Jesse, that the fame may have made them go a little bit lost their marbles.
100% agree. And it does now feel like a house full of influencers.
Yikes.
And what I liked before was that it was more like a New York share house where everybody had a job, but then also,
wanted to like go balls out over the weekend.
Yeah.
Now it's like they're going balls out 7 days a week because they need content for their social media channels.
Exactly. And right. And they don't have real jobs and they're just doing this to stay famous and relevant. And
it's too enticing, I think, for some of them. They get like so many likes and comments and follows that they don't want it to end. It's like a drug.
Well, and I think it's easy. And I've worked with housewives on various and sundry projects over the years. And some of them become so used to just showing up and being themselves that that's all the work they want to do. Like they don't want to work hard anymore, because why would you when someone just points a camera at you and then you get paid for like living your life?
Well, that's what I'm saying about Kyle. Like having a business where you're up and working quite early, you're working really late. There's the constant pressure about numbers. Yeah, I could see why somebody would go, I'm just going to be a DJ instead.
Yeah, no, totally. And I would happily pay to go to one of Kyle Cook's DJ events because I am in love with him.
What do you think
forever
his
and
playlist
always?
Is? What do you think is on the playlist?
It can't be good. I mean, I feel like it's got to be like chain smokers and what's Diplo, like that kind of EDM, cheesy, straight boy.
Does this mean that it's like every party will have him DJing?
Probably.
See, as a producer, I'd be like, this kind of like sucks because you want him out walking about the party with the mullet and the dumb costume. I don't know if I want him behind the DJ booth the whole time with like, one hand on the earmuff and the other finger pointed into the sky, bouncing.
Yeah.
We need him walking about the party.
Yeah, we need him getting in fights.
Yes.
For the show.
Not like fights because someone's like, can you play Dua Lipa? And he's like, screw Dua Lipa. Like, I don't need that.
No, I want him to be like, my wife drives me fucking crazy. I can't stand her. And then, which is the same fight we've been watching for the past 8 years.
8 years. Still, though, hoping one day that Amanda and Jesse just find each other in a hallway and just like make it happen.
I mean, yeah, girl, that would be amazing if she left Kyle for Jesse Solomon.
Jesse.
Oh my God.
I know.
How would you like to get in the best shape, the healthiest shape of your life for less than $5 a day? I'm Body CEO Carl Deichler. That's Body with an I. And I've got your healthy bundle with a world-class workout, healthy eating plan, plus the healthiest and most delicious nutrition shake that will make you feel amazing and really improve your digestion, if you know what I mean. All for less than $5 a day. This is your healthy bundle, your workout, your easy eating plan, and a delicious nutrition shake called Shakeology. And if you don't lose up to 10 to 15 pounds in your first 3 weeks, I'll give you your money back. Imagine a trainer and dietitian giving you all this for less than $5 a day, plus a healthy superfood shake that curbs cravings, helps you lose weight, and gives you healthy energy. It's unprecedented, and it's your healthy bundle. So write down this web address. Go to yourhealthybundle.com. That's yourhealthybundle.com, and see how healthy and fit you can get for less than $5 a day.
The stench of sweaty uniforms in a football team's locker room can be unbearable. But Arm & Hammer Deep Clean Laundry Detergents fights the toughest odors to deliver a championship-level clean. Arm & Hammer Deep Clean Detergents are the brand's most powerful formulas yet that can penetrate deep between fibers to tackle tough dirt and odors. Just like an elite defense, its pH-powered technology sends in millions of ionic microscrubbers to dominate the toughest stains and odors. And unlike those premium tickets, with the trusted value of Arm & Hammer, you don't need deep pockets for a deep clean. Available in liquid or convenient power packs, it works in all machines and temperatures, even cold water. When it comes to tough stains and odors, put Arm & Hammer Deep Clean in your starting lineup. Pick up Arm & Hammer Deep Clean today. Available in-store or online at major retailers nationwide.
Now, wait, they showed the clip at the end about like what to expect this season. And we know that, Paige has been waiting to talk about, what has happened on her end because, of course, Craig went on Watch What Happens Live after the filming of a reunion of Southern Charm. Do you think that this is going to be like a slow process where she lets her story trickle out, or is she just going to do the slam dunk? Like, okay, this is what happened, why it didn't work, and leave me alone from here moving forward.
So based on the preview clip, it looks like they pick cameras up again after the announcement because Lindsay is pumping. So she's had the kid. So it's after the fall, whatever. So yeah, I think that Bravo's probably going to keep her trickling it out a little bit because we still have to watch it unfold.
Yeah, you're right.
On Summer House. And so I feel like it's kind of interesting in that it's a little bit Rashomon style, right? We're getting the Craig perspective on Southern Charm. Then we're going to get the Paige perspective on Summer House. And then we're going to get to decide.
By the way, great move, Bravo, to get us sucked into two different shows just to figure out what the heck happened.
Exactly. Yeah. And now we have to watch that. We have to watch What Happens Live. We have to follow Instagram. Like, girl, we're piecing this shit together. And that's what's so amazing to me about these shows in this era is that we know what's going to happen. We know they're headed to a breakup and we're still fascinated. Like, we're still waiting to watch, exactly how it happened and who was right and who was wrong. And so I think that says a lot for Bravo and the quality of its programming that even though we know where they're going, we're still as invested.
Yeah. And I think we both know he'll marry a sweet Southern woman and they'll start having children right away. And Craig will marry like a billionaire mogul or something.
Paige will marry a billionaire mogul. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And then she'll have her own summer house and she'll never allow cameras in one. She'll be like, bye, bitch. See you forever.
On the patio, right on the beach with like a cigarette extender and a scarf around her neck with a big hat, just like fuck off everybody.
Exactly. Still recording Giggly Squad in the garage.
Love it.
Yeah.
Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. It's been awkward, to say the least, watching moments between Sutton and her mother when she took Kyle and Garcelle back to Augusta. Clearly, her mother is a woman of her generation, of her region. Sutton is clearly her daughter. I love it when a Real Housewife talks about how horrible their mother is, and you're like, but you're just like them.
100%. Yeah. Oh my God. They look alike. They behave alike. They sound alike. They are literally the same person. It's like Heather Dubrow. Like when you see Heather Dubrow's mother.
One of my favorite episodes. Yes.
Yeah. And you're like, oh, I get it.
Yep.
Yeah. And then to find out that Sutton's mother was a psychologist.
Now, somebody did say, and I think this is important, that the death of Sutton's father was really traumatic for her mother. So
I could imagine, yes.
That I take into account. Like this is a woman who is in deep in grief. So we're gonna just be mindful of that. But I think that Sutton fails to realize that there are some similarities, like the first season when she was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and she had said to Teddy how boring she was. That's something that her mom would do, like an unfiltered, brash, aggressive comment like that. And that's why I love these episodes, because you begin to put the pieces together. Like, that is why the housewife looks through life. Like, that's the lens through which she looks at life.
Yes.
And I'm so grateful for this episode.
No, you're absolutely correct. And I even love how they showed like Reba being really demanding and then a montage of Sutton being really demanding in like the same exact way. Like, you get that all somewhere. But I think that I am just like my mother as well. And I think that we see things in people similar to ourselves that we hate about ourselves, you know?
Yes, for sure.
So, and so I think Sutton's reacting both to the way her mother treats her, but also the way she sees herself and how she wishes she could be less like her mother, or maybe thinks she is less like her mother, but in reality, it's not so much.
Well, I mean, we're just all watered down versions of the people that we grew up with, right? I mean, we're all similar to the people that like our parents. Like, I can be very direct. My mother is the most direct person in the world. I mean, most direct. My mom can be extremely stoic. My kids would tell you sometimes that I can be stoic. Now, is that hard for me to accept sometimes? Absolutely. But it's, it's like a lifelong process of working on it. And I do feel empathy for the housewives, because with all the fame and the attention and the opportunities that come with this, they still are confronted watching themselves on camera with the very things that probably are very painful.
Absolutely. And I wonder what that, like, if I were to see scenes between me and my mother, if I would recognize even how much more alike we are and whether or not I would do anything about that. You know? Like, does Sutton watch this and go, oh my God, I am my mother and here are the things I need to improve so I'm not? Or does she just watch it and go like, oh, that's not that bad?
Well, they're all, I mean, and I like a lot of them are very self-involved and are without introspection. And like I did say about her mom on Twitter, I felt for Sutton because it is near impossible to ask somebody who has no interest in introspection to suddenly gain some. I mean, it's just not going to happen at her age.
Yes. No. And she's not going to change her. No. But I do think that when Garcelle was like, maybe tell her you're proud of her and you love her. Like, you know, and she says, oh, that's none of your business. And she's right. To some extent, it isn't any of Garcelle's business. But also, as a mother, wouldn't you want to hear what your kid needs, even if that kid can't tell you themselves?
I feel like some of the elements of their relationship too is, number one, she clearly has more respect for the ex-husband because he was the successful one in her mind and the one who made all the money. And I wonder if she looks at Sutton's life like, you are so spoiled. How dare you complain? You know?
Yes.
And also you owe it to me. Like, who's going to take care of me?
Yes.
This is when I love the show because it reminds me of the first seasons where I felt like I was watching more of like a docuseries about women in the suburbs. I like this stuff, picking apart scenes and their personalities and the relationship dynamics with not only just with each other, but the people in their life, way more than sitting at a table and arguing about, you know, if someone's husband having an affair. This to me is way more interesting.
Yes. No, and that's what I always say is like my favorite moments of Housewives are when they can't keep the darkness tamped down anymore and you see it start bubbling through the surface. And like, you know, you stole my goddamn house. You know, those moments of like, you can't contain it anymore. And you get to really see who these people truly are and the psychology that gets them there. Yeah. Rather than you called me, you said Alibaba steals all my shit, whatever. I don't even know what the fuck they're fighting about in Salt Lake half the time. But I do know I love I love a good fight. Don't get me wrong, but I'm with you. Yeah, this is like fascinating for me to watch. And I think does show us a lot more of who Sutton really is. And she is such a conflicted character, you know, where she's always saying one thing and doing another. And I think we really get to see where that comes from thanks to looking at her and her mom's very complicated relationship.
And it also is just so relatable that, you know, Sutton's in her 50s and she still wants her mom's approval. And I think there's so many people that are like, I mean, I feel like a lot of the reason for my success is because I was working so hard to get acknowledgement from a parent who will never give it to me.
Yeah.
I'm in a race for recognition from a parent who just, it doesn't matter to them. I'm not even on their radar screen. So I love stuff like this because that's why I think people want to talk about these episodes, because there's an element of the story that resonates with them and it's a conversation starter, you know, with their friends, with their family. Like, oh my God, I have felt that with my parent. I have felt invisible. I love it.
And that's why I'm so lazy, because my parents told me they were proud of me too much. So maybe Sutton's mom was right.
I have a friend like that. My friend Jen said, I was an only child and I was told how great I was all the time. So I really started to believe it. And it was hard for me to get criticism because I was like, wait, well, where is this coming from? And I thought that was so interesting.
That isn't actually my experience. But I feel you. Yeah. It is weird having parents who are fairly well-adjusted.
You know who's like that too? Danny Pellegrino. When I interviewed him, he's like, yeah, my parents are wonderful and my brothers love me. And I'm like, so like your dad calls you and he like checks in on you and loves you. And he's like, yeah, it's wonderful. I'm like, oh my God, I can't even like, what? I just love listening to people talk about like how they grew up and the dynamics of their families, because it's like a maze.
No, absolutely. And I see like all the ways, that it comes into me. Like my mother will never call. Like she just waits for you to call her.
Oh,
Or
why? Why?
sometimes it's like last of the Catholic martyrs. I don't
Got
want to
it.
be a burden.
Yes.
Blah, 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 all that bullshit. But yeah, sometimes she'll text and be like, oh, are you free to call? But she will never like call. And I was in LA during the wildfires, and there's a supermarket like right next to my place in LA. And my parents have spent a bit of time there, so they know the neighborhood really well. And my mother called, and I was like, oh shit, my mom's calling, you better answer.
Yeah.
And she was like, the guy on the news is in front of the supermarket next to your house. What is happening? Like, that's what it took for my mother to call, was she had to recognize that the news was right in front of my house and that something bad was happening. But I do the same thing. I never call anybody. I like wait for them to like get in touch with me. Yeah, it's all crazy and fascinating. And don't make me like Sutton. That's all I'm saying.
It might. You know what's one thing too? My sister and I was talking about is like since we were sent to boarding school, and even before that, like we didn't grow up in a family where we check in all the time. Like, I hid in my house for a couple hours as a child just to test my mom, see how long it would take her to notice I was missing. Like crazy. And then we went off to boarding school and I wouldn't talk to my mom for like 4 months at a time.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It has been weird for me as an adult when I had friends that would want to check in on me. Like we would go to dinner, text me when you get home. I'm like, why? Why would I do that?
Yeah. Leave me alone.
Like, huh?
Yeah.
God.
Girl, I'm fine. I'll make it.
Yeah. All that stuff's so fun to talk about. Anyway, so I feel like these episodes have been even getting better. I feel like Southern Charm's last episode in particular, I really enjoyed a lot because it's far more layered than it has been for a while.
Agree. And I think some people are kind of being like, oh, Beverly Hills is a snooze, but I'm into it. And I just feel like it's hard coming off of the high of Salt Lake, which, I love, but it vibrates at such a high frequency. It's like, okay, I need to like go back to Beverly Hills and catch my breath and like, let the rich women do things and it be like calm and before I get back into the insanity.
Ooh, quick question for you as we go out. Do you believe at this point that Dorit and PK are actually going through marriage troubles, or do you think this is part of a storyline?
I mean, I am usually of the ideological perspective that these people are being real and truthful. So I would really like to think that they're going through some real marriage troubles. And I think that we have seen over the course of the years that everything's not great in Kemsley land. So I would like to think that it's true, because if they're faking this for a story, that's really fucked up to everyone involved. So what do you think?
The thing that trips me up is she's so over the top this season. And it just seems out of sync with who she has seemed to be this whole time. And I keep thinking about how Kyle keeps saying, I don't even recognize you. So it's either she's like kept this pent up for a while, or she feels like she has to show up more for scenes to keep her job. Or maybe this is an exaggerated performance for a couple that may have had some problems, but probably talk about things off camera and then agree to just play it up for TV. I kind of go back and forth all the time. But lately I'm like, this performance seems quite big.
Yeah. And it is funny that I feel like what fans are reacting to with Dorit this season is that she's finally telling the truth. And so what would happen to get you to be so honest? Like, why are you suddenly so different in your approach to the show?
Yeah. Although she did call him a horrible dad, and I don't know how you could walk that back.
Yeah, that's
a hard one.
Yeah, and that kind of, and when she was like, actually, in the past, I would have lied about that to protect him, but now I'm not anymore. I thought that was a very telling moment of like, I'm done with this dude. And because I feel like she has gone through a lot with him very publicly where everybody was like, how are you married to this guy? And she's finally realizing like, oh, yeah, maybe everybody was right about my terrible husband.
Possibly. But Boz is so funny in those scenes because she's like, girl, what?
Yes.
Like everything that she says, she's like, huh?
I am so glad that both Boz and Erica are there telling Dorit what she needs to hear, which is prepare yourself. Don't let it happen to you. Get ready. Go on the offensive. I mean,
10
Kyle
years
needs to hear that. Fucking Stacey on Real Housewives of Potomac needs to hear that. Like all of these women thinking that their divorces are going to be nice and clean and easy are fucking bonkers.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, tell everybody where they can read everything that you're working on and where they can follow you.
You can follow me at Brian J. Moylan on all platforms. And I'm currently recapping Beverly Hills Summer House, Southern Charm on vulture.com. And those are all available right after you watch the episodes. So go check it out.
And you also do that interview with Mary. They can go read that one too.
Yes, I did a great interview with Mary at the end of the season. Yeah, she was cute. She said she didn't have time to do her hair, so she wouldn't put her camera on. So it was like my face on Zoom and her voice on Zoom. So it's kind of weird.
Okay.
But yeah, she was much more game and much more into the questions than I anticipated. I was really nervous because Mary, she'll say whatever the fuck she wants.
Yeah.
So,
and her son's okay. She said he's okay, or at least he's working on being okay.
Yes, and that he's doing well, and that was good to hear.
Yeah.
And so it was really great to talk to. I loved Mary so much, and like every scene she's in makes me cry. Even when it's her and Angie being friends, I'm like, oh, they love each other.
So nice. Well, okay. Well, people can go and read that too. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
The amazing Kate Casey.
I want to thank my great guest, Brian, and remind you to click subscribe, leave a 5-star review, join the Facebook group, Reality Life with Kate Casey. You can get bonus episodes by going to patreon.com/Kate Casey. And then also make sure you follow me on social media. I'm on Instagram at KatecaseyCA, TikTok, it's Kate Casey. Everything else at Kate Casey, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads. And then also my what to watch list is at katecasey.substack.com.
Packages by Expedia. You were made to be rechargeable. We were made to package flights, hotels, and hammocks for less. Expedia, made to travel.